Welcome to ENG 308, Study Session 7. Relevance of note-taking and note-making in research. Introduction. In the conduct of a research, exploring relevant books and other written materials for vital information for a robust research report is a necessity. Being possessed by an adventurous spirit, a researcher remains restless until he unravels hidden information needed for a research work. In view of this, the importance of note-taking and note-making in research work cannot be overemphasized. This is because a researcher engages himself in note-taking in the process of collecting data and reviewing related literature, which will serve as a basis for the final draft of the research paper. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Outline points. Establish the link between note-taking and note-making. Note-taking. Notes are important and relevant ideas taken from a lecture, text, or interview. Note-taking, therefore, means summarizing the main or most important point of a text, lecture, or an interview with a view to retaining and remembering such for the purpose of one's research. Allo 2004 Ditto 6 opines that note-taking is an academic activity involving a lecturer, guest speaker, presenter of a seminar or conference paper, and the listener. For example, seminar participants, tutorial participants, conference participants, students in a formal lecture session. It is not extraneous to say that note-taking is an academic activity. In the process of learning and conducting a research, one tries to understand ideas and the connections of those ideas with the topic of research. One also tries to ultimately remember those ideas or points encountered during a lecture or rigorous reading. A very important key to perform this magic is note-taking. Similarly, Hober 1981 Ditto 167 says that note-taking is a skill which, when properly applied, reinforces active reading and constructive study. She says further that notes may be in the form of an outline or a series of connected sentences, paraphrased or put in your own words. There is no gainsaying the fact that note-taking is an important skill which a researcher must possess. It enables one to jot down main ideas briefly in one's own words when reading a text or receiving a lecture or while on the field collecting data. Note-taking serves as a means of preserving ideas and knowledge derived from various learning sources. Reflection. The life of a human consists of many parts, roles, and duties. Thus, our brain, though highly efficient, cannot store all we would wish it to store or retrieve them just anytime we need them. An effective panacea then is to jot down points we will later need. Skills needed for note-taking. A. Listening skill. Of all the 4 skills of effective communication, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, listening is the most neglected. According to Gamble and Gamble 1996, cited in Oyewo 2004, listening is a deliberate process of seeking to understand and retain information for a future use. If a researcher is on the field to collect data, he has to be an active listener in order to get what his subject will say and understand such perfectly, because such an opportunity may not come up again. B. Writing skill. This is another very important skill which a researcher must possess. The ability to jot down ideas in a skeletal form in the course of a lecture, reading, interview, and so on is important. It will not be out of point to say that both skills, for example, listening and writing, may go on simultaneously. Again, Alo 2004 Dito 7 says, for effective note-taking activity, the student has to put into practice the art of listening. At the same time, ensure that his pen and hand move intuitively while writing and jotting down the main point. Because of the limitedness of time during a lecture, an interview or reading, one has to learn how to abbreviate and jot down only the main ideas, or to be developed later. Therefore, a researcher must be an active listener and a fast writer. ITQ. Listening and writing are two of the four language arts or skill humans use, while is one dependent on the other. ITA. Listening is meant to take in knowledge, while writing is meant to express it. If you do not take in knowledge, there will be nothing to express. Techniques of note-taking. The following should be noted regarding note-taking. A. Stationery. Writing materials such as notebooks or papers, rulers, biro, and other essential materials should be made ready when preparing to take notes. A researcher can organize his notebook to indicate the date, the names of the authors, the titles of the books to be read, and the topics, and so on. B. Defining your purpose. While reading books, listening to lectures, or conducting interviews, it is important you define your purpose in order to take cognizance of relevant facts, ideas, or points. Only important and relevant points should be noted. The researcher should learn to understand what he has read before jotting down such ideas in order to put them in his own language, except some technical words that must not be changed for some technical purposes. Yet, caution must be taken to avoid useless repetition of the writer's idea. C. Outlining points. You must label your note intelligently. The main points should be separated from the subordinating ones. A researcher needs some system of notations to organize his note. Banjo and Bisong 2005 recommend this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Large Roman numerals for main ideas. A, B, C, D, and so on. Capital letters for subdivisions of the main ideas. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Arabic numerals for subdivisions of A, B, C. A, B, C, D, and so on. Small letters for subdivisions of 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Small Roman numerals for subdivisions of A, B, C. Let us exemplify this for clarification. 1. Communication, broad heading. A. Oral communication, specific heading. Types of oral communication, subdivision. A. Intrapersonal communication. 1. Vocalized soliloquy. 2. Written or non-vocalized soliloquy. B. Interpersonal communication. C. Group communication. 2. Forms of oral communication. A. Gestures. B. Kinesics. C. Paralanguage. B. Written communication. 1. Types of written communication. A. Formal. B. Informal, and so on. You must note that there must be consistency in the form you adopt. C. Acknowledging your source. Whether paraphrased or verbatim, you must always acknowledge the sources of your note so as not to be accused of plagiarism. You should note the author, the title of the book, the publishers, the place of the publication, the year of publication, and page number. Informant or subject on the field must also be acknowledged except otherwise instructed. The following could serve as sources of note-taking for research. 1. Existing research papers, theses or dissertations. 2. Journals. 3. Speeches. 4. Interviews. 5. Fieldwork. 6. Books. The notes you take from such sources should possess some qualities. For example, a good note should, among others, be concise and complete, specific, devoid of ambiguity and or vagueness, intelligently outlined, and relevant to the study. Note making. There is need to develop skeletal notes to full-fledged notes immediately when the memory is still fresh. In this wise, some materials like dictionaries, maps, texts, and so on might be needed in the process of note making to have a complete note. In this process, notes are used as thinking tools because taking good notes deepens one's understanding and strengthens one's retention of what one has read or listened to. Notes should be well developed in good handwriting and scholarly manner, with ideas well synthesized and sources duly acknowledged. In the process of note making, a researcher should develop an outline which will make his note well planned, paragraphs properly developed and knitted to form a coherent and cohesive piece. The foregoing simply implies that note making is a process of developing the jotted down notes into meaningful and cohesive texts. Study session summary. In this study session, we have discussed note-taking and note-making as well as mentioned the skills necessary for note-taking and note-making, techniques of note-taking and note-making, sources of note-taking in research, and qualities of notes. For the sources of your research endeavor, you should be able to take useful notes from relevant sources and develop such into coherent and cohesive texts. You should note also that it is important you duly acknowledge the sources of your notes. With robust notes, you will be able to enrich your research. We have come to the end of study session 7. Thanks for listening.